Good morning, Forex traders. This is Sharif Bot, founder of Trend Following Formula. Today is Monday, the 13th of February 2017, and this is 8 a.m. here in GMT, Cardiff. In today's episode, we are going to talk about a really interesting week ahead of us. There are potential reversal happening in the market, generally on the DAX and on the SP 500 and on the dollar index, which actually will result in potential reversals on major currencies, and there might be actually as well continuation on important stocks. So let's start with the rules. What are our rules? Basically, what we are looking for first is trending market. What do we mean by that? Basically, a trend could be up or it could be down. Okay, so if we have an up market, it needs to be looking like that. It has to be a series of highs, okay, breached by higher highs and higher lows, then higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So that's a sequence of higher highs and higher lows. That's an uptrend. This is the classical definition of a trend. Okay, the classical definition of a downtrend is a sequence of lower lows, it's exactly the opposite, and lower highs. Okay, these are basically the very simple definition of an uptrend and downtrend. We might have very little tweak into this, which is going to be like that. It's exactly the same principle, but it shows the strength of the trend. So if we will have that kind of a trend, that's a kind of corrective move. We are not going to get into details what are the names of these or whatever. You need just to understand, if you see a sequence of higher highs and higher lows, this is an uptrend. However, this is a weaker trend. When you see that, this is a weaker trend. If you are going to trade this, you need to trade it certainly in the direction of that trend that you defined, which is an uptrend. So we are going to trade on the direction of that uptrend. Okay, if you see it like that, this is a weak downtrend. Yes, it is a weak, however, it's a downtrend. So if you are trading in this, you need to be selling. There's another structure for a trend which looks like that. This called impulsive trend, which means that the moves are really strong. Once the market creates a low, it never, as you see here, it never breaches the previous high. Okay, never breaches the previous high. This is called impulsive. Okay, impulsive trend. There are some trading methodologies and techniques. They give different names to these things, but I usually find that this is the easiest way really to understand and to define a trend. A sequence of higher highs and higher an uptrend is a sequence of higher highs and higher lows, and a downtrend is a sequence of lower lows and lower highs. And when you see the market overlapping, creating this sort of choppy sequence, that means this market is a little bit weaker. However, it's still an uptrend. When you see it like that, this is a really very strong trend. So the first rule is we are looking for a trend. Then after that, we need to look for a correction. If you remember from the previous slide, we said this is a sequence of higher highs and higher lows. Okay, what we need to do is understanding that trend. Okay, so to understand that is a trend, we said higher highs and higher lows, and to define this, you need to have a high, a minimum, a high and a low. That is a higher high. What comes after this should be actually a lower, a higher low. Whatever comes here, and whatever reversal in the market, that's gonna be a higher low. If the market go below that previous low, we will have a higher high and lower low. Now we are not in an uptrend, we are in a potential trend reversal, so we cannot say that this is an uptrend. So in an uptrend, we need to look for a correction. What is a correction? After having two like a high and a low, so that's a higher high. In this case, whatever will come later, that's a correction. This correction potentially is a place that we need to look for an evidence for a long trade. So this is the second thing, looking for a correction. And usually these corrections are looking choppy like that, but you could have actually a very interesting trend, intraday trend in it. However, if we have on the higher time frame, let's say we are trading 1 hour 15 minutes, if we have on the 1 hour a trend which is a high and then a low and then a higher high, we potentially will have, we should assume that we will have a higher low, and we look for evidence for that. We look for that correction. If we see that correction, we need to move to step number 3, which is looking for a setup. A setup is going to be a confirmation for a bullish like reversal. Okay, like it's going to be some sort of a candlestick, bullish engulfing in case of an uptrend, bearish engulfing in case of a downtrend. We are looking for something like a hammer, a shooting star, which, you know, there are so many types of candles that you need to learn about and to know about. However, this is the simple 3 rules. First, we are looking for a trending market, then we search for the correction, and then we look for an evidence. That is the very simple technique that we use. So by that, let's come back to our by talking about this, let's head back to our daily analysis and understand the markets through the market structures. So we are actually I went ahead of the order. Let's look at the calendar. The calendar today is pretty much interesting. We have very strong week ahead of us. We have really we have so many markets we need to discuss today. And as you see, we have 1, 2, 3 markets on Tuesday. Today there is nothing. And then on Wednesday we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers coming. That's a lot actually for Wednesday. And then Tuesday there's 1, 2, 3 pieces of information. So we would actually, by looking to this at that, understand that this week's pivot point is going to be around Wednesday and Thursday. These are the 2 days that you would expect reversal or strong continuation on. So time wise, because when we are analyzing the higher highs and higher lows, this is a price action. These are information driven from the chart, from the price, but then you need a time indicator, something to tell you when these things may happen. So we have Wednesday and Thursday. These are the potential 2 days that we should expect market reversals in. If we now move very quickly to the chart, we will notice starting actually with the with the dollar index. Dollar index is showing very interesting indication to the market. Starting with the weekly, if we notice on the weekly chart candle, there's a very interesting evidence happened here, which is a bullish engulfing on the weekly chart for the US dollar index. As we mentioned on the daily for the past few weeks, we said that this is a downtrend because basically sequence of low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Okay, and that sequence presented a downtrend. That's why we recommended all the time to short this market. However, we said that this market, as it's moving in an overlapping kind of structure, that is a short-lived. Actually, that's a correction. However, it's a trending correction. It's a trend because by definition it's a trend. However, the overlapping structure gave us the impression that it is corrective. What does it mean? It means simply on the short term, which is the daily, we have to short that market, but we need to wait for an evidence for a reversal up, because markets are very dynamic. Markets are very dynamic. You cannot say, oh, that market is trending all the time. Inside an uptrend, you will find downtrends. Inside this downtrend, you will find uptrends and sideways, and so many other things. That's why you need to define what time frame are you gonna trade on. Are you gonna trade on the weekly or the monthly? Are you gonna hold the position for a certain period of time? Is it related to time, or it's related to certain opportunity that you see on that certain time frame? However, if we look at that structure, we need to understand that there is a time that is gonna end, and it's going to be soon. On that weekly, we noticed that market have basically reached, as you see here, the 100 level, the 99.9, that's the 100 level. Okay, that 100 level worked as a resistance for a period on that market, worked as a resistance 2 times. Very, very, very strong resistance, and then it had been broke up. Then there is a correction, a corrective move here, retest, pull back to retest that support level, and it seems that it worked. Why? Because on the weekly chart close, which is like the line chart here, a weekly line chart, the market haven't really breached this, haven't closed below this 100 level. And on the other hand, it created that pattern, this bullish engulfing pattern, which is very significant, and actually that's an evidence. That's really very strong evidence. And if you notice historically, when this kind of candles, this kind of evidence happen on the weekly chart, usually there is a strong and the market usually pivots and turn around this point. Especially we have support and we have bullish engulfing, and it's coming from previous downtrend. So these are 3 very, very important evidence. That's a very short-lived downtrend. This is a support, and then the pattern. These are by themselves 3 important evidence that we need to look at, and combining this with the line chart, because the line chart is one of the most important underestimated analyzing tools, because that shows the market, the weekly closing. Weekly closing means like everybody went to the market, they were trading, and then on Friday everybody is going home and the market is settling down on a certain price for that commodity or that trading, that investment vehicle. Like everybody's going home believing that the market's value is X. So the weekly chart is very, very important. Like every week people go home believing that the dollar index, for example, like on the 23rd of November 2017, it should never, like, we are going home, guys, and you know what, after all that trade, we believe that 100 is the maximum for the dollar index. And then basically you see a bearish engulfing here, and basically, oh yeah, the market's bottom. This is the evidence here. The market bottoms after. That's the evidence that we need to look at. So this is the dollar index, and this is a very interesting and powerful indicator. Then after the dollar index, we will have a look at SPX and the SP 500. It seems that we have a negative correlation started to happen now between the dollar and commodities, and stocks. SP 500 doesn't care about the value of the dollar. He's actually flying, which actually an interesting phenomena, showing that markets are moving in a certain direction, and the currency in a different one. Looking at SP 500, that needs to open our appetite actually towards stocks. That's the weekly, as you see, very, very, very bullish. There is no evidence for a previous high. Actually, this is we are all-time high for a very good period now. And that needs to open our appetite for trading in the direction of the uptrend on stocks. The Dow, Asia as well, he doesn't really stop. That's 1 year high. And if we have a look at Apple computers, for example, as well, it's really very impulsive. However, there is a resistance on Apple weekly chart, so we need to see an evidence here. However, the intraday trading needs to be bullish, because there might be actually a spike. However, if you were very, very bullish through that run up here, you need to just reduce your positions and be careful. Gold is actually very interesting as well. As we see, there is on that chart weekly, the market is moving up in a strong fashion. There is no any reversal evidence. That's like a bunch of higher highs and higher lows, very strong weeks moving forward. On the line chart, we still need actually to we might need to really, if that market is gonna reverse, let's say if that market needs to reverse around that area, I would need to really see another test and a little bit of wiggle here, like a consolidation area to just form on that place, so I can see on that line chart a resistance. So I want really to see that line chart doing like that, if this is going to work as a resistance respecting that previous level. So that's a point here that I think we still have some room for 1245 on the gold. However, now we are approaching a corrective area, which we need to really respect, because we had a strong rally now for a period, and usually if you are hitting a resistance coming from very long distance, usually the energy is really is very limited, and people were buying that market for a long time, and the bulls are tired. So bulls are tired, and bears are waiting here in that area, just looking for an opportunity to attack and to push that market down again. If we get to currencies again, the index, the dollar index, as we spoke, is showing an opportunity for a rally. Now there are 3 evidence for a rally. So what we need to expect is a drop in the EURUSD, the euro dollar. So if you look at the euro dollar, candlestick chart, you will notice that basically we have a very strong evidence showing a potential reversal in the market. That is a very strong candle. That's a weekly chart. Weekly charts are usually very accurate in relation to candlesticks, especially this candlestick have 3 evidence or 3 important confirmations. The first one is a previous like a resistance area which have been actually formed for a long time. It actually reversed the market here, and then here. So that is one. Number 2, we have a rally, okay, and then a candlestick forming after a rally. That's a powerful evidence for a short term or a continuation for whatever was happening before, which is that move, okay, down. We just need to look on the daily chart for a potential actually trend forming. So we have here a low started to happen. We need another high, and then we need just to see something like this. We need to see something like that. So high, 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 lower, high, and then low. So we have low and high. So lower high and then lower low. If we will have that, whatever come after this is going to be our potential downtrend, very nice trade to take in consideration. However, now there is a huge potential for that downtrending move to be actually to be what the potential for this market for the coming few weeks. On the British pound in the weekly is a very interesting market. As you see, double bottom here, reversal. That market is actually very interesting. It's very interesting. You need very much to consider this market for like a potential reversal back into that zone. Like I would expect that this zone is gonna hold for a while. That zone is gonna hold for a while, because as we see, US dollar is getting into some sort of rally. There's a confirmation, a bullish confirmation in the US dollar. So what you would expect for the British pound is actually according to the negative correlation between them, it needs to go down. Swiss franc, simply dollar is up, Swiss franc is up. This is as well, again, if we just close this and put that line chart, look at this beauty. This is very clear, very powerful, nothing really to say. Rally. What we expect is a rally up. If we get to the USD Canadian, this market is very choppy. It's hard to say anything about it. If we even move to the candlesticks everywhere, and the market is not really good, and that's because of the oil. Okay, and if we move on to Apple, as you see, Apple on weekly, it's very strong. However, there is a potential resistance. Okay, and Tesla this is a really nice market. This is a real nice market. You should have actually joined that. I was talking about these two stocks for about a month and a half now. It's really very interesting to join these markets. And now very quickly, let's get to our banks confirmation. Let's see what the banks have in mind for us. Basically, if you look at that, you will discover that the euro banks are selling now EURUSD, strong sell. That's really new downgrading for the euro. And we have the gold is somehow bullish, so it's a confirmation. So banks are buying gold now, so that's a very, very interesting confirmation. And the British pound actually just try to find it. Yeah, it's a sideway. I would agree very much about that. Like people, like that's why we said that there is a sideway movement in like the sterling pound market's not really very sure about what's gonna happen. Mostly actually traders don't trade it now. Banks are really seizing or buying or selling. Like they sold a lot, but nobody's buying at the minute. With this, guys, we come to a conclusion. Today's market analysis, actually that week's market analysis. I hope you liked that episode. The market is interesting. For the first time, we start to see evidence in relation to the dollar index, and for a while we have been selling that market, but then last week it was very skeptical. We didn't know is this support gonna hold or we will continue the previous downtrend, but I think by today's evidence we can actually establish a solid actually support on the 100 level. Gold is moving up and continuing up. US dollar is moving down. However, we are not going to be selling it unless a new trend confirms. You on the 4 hours, however, on the US dollar, you can sell that market, no problem at all. Most of the markets are moving, most of the stocks are moving really strongly up. We saw Apple, we saw Tesla. If you want to join the market strongly, you need to be on stocks. I think that currencies are going to be a very good market in maybe by the end of this week. Let's look at Wednesday and Thursday news. What will happen might be an interesting reversal in the market that we might wait for. I hope you liked that episode. This was Sharif Butt from Trend Following Formula. If you like that episode, please give us thumbs up and subscribe in the channel. If you feel that there is anything more that we can do, please don't hesitate to write down a comment. I certainly myself appreciate very much any word from yourselves. If it's support or if it's if you would criticize that channel, that's gonna be really helping for us to really understand what you need. Have a great week and happy trading.